yeah, these are some wonderful verses here. Lord Vamanadev speaking to Bali Maharaj, and as the Srila Prabhupada named this chapter, arresting him, chastising him for his false promise of giving him land. And of course, as we know, Lord Vamanadev covered the entire creation with his first 2 paces of land, and ultimately Bali Maharaj will surrender in the exemplary act of Atma Nivedan, offering one's full self to the Lord. With the 3rd step, he requests Lord Vamanadev to place that step on his head. So the first verse that we looked at about if you promise something to a beggar and are not able to deliver upon it, this is a significant example of the honesty, the integrity, the dharmic nature that is put forth in the scripture, and that is seen in the pure devotees. The pure devotees, will make sankalpa. They'll make a promise, and it must be followed through. Of course, one very, very strong example we have in our scriptures is Lord Ramchandra, that he's exiled to the forest for 14 years. Instead of kind of contesting this, challenging this, or trying to somehow manipulate the proceedings, he accepts it, humbly accepts it, and takes it as a sankalpa. And everything that follows from that, he is always striving to be an exemplar of dharma for the benefit of others. So now the following verse and purport, Srila Prabhupada raises this incredible point that whether in hellish or heavenly circumstances, the devotee is always living with Krishna. So beautiful the way Srila Prabhupada states this. The devotee is always living with Krishna and is therefore transcendental, is not subject, in the highest sense, is not subject to the conditions that are going on in the external environment. The devotee is not swayed toward distress by hellish circumstances, and is not swayed toward forgetfulness of Krishna, or is not swayed toward, sort of egoistic revelry by, being in a heavenly opulent circumstance. So I wanted to provide, to start, some examples of how this is so, of how, regardless of the circumstances that devotees may find themselves in, how the advanced devotees are just always connected to Krishna and are fixed. So of course we have the example of Srila Prabhupada himself, who famously said also once to the media in London, said that London is hell. And he referenced the weather constantly raining, a very dark, dank place, and people are working very, very hard. So he stated that London is a hellish place, and that was a provocative statement that led many people to investigate the teachings of the movement. But Srila Prabhupada, under so many circumstances, resided in hellish or very difficult circumstances. Of course, particularly after he came to the West, and in the early days of being in New York City, Srila Prabhupada was on the Bowery, which those of you in New York City know has come a long way since then. But at that time, it was a very, very austere, rundown place. Many people struggling there. People living homeless, people living with severe alcoholism or addictions. And Srila Prabhupada was witnessing the suffering that was going on there. And also he himself lived under very austere circumstances, sharing rooms, sharing a loft at 94 Bowery and he gave some of his first Bhagavatam lectures there and was translating there, but he was sharing rooms quite often with people who made his living situation, it would seem very difficult. People who were struggling in various ways and who were not always so kind or respectful to Srila Prabhupada. And also, Krishna was always with him under those circumstances. And just wanted to share, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we have this wonderful verse. I'll just read it. It's that, so one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So this is very important, that regardless of what may come up. And there was another verse I was looking for, actually. Sorry that I don't have it in front of me. It's that one who does not care for any residence. So this is significant in connection with this verse and this notion. So, of course, we have so many examples of those who are also the inverse, living under very opulent circumstances, living, in very abundant material circumstances, but are suffering. And I have strong memory of hearing a story from one gentleman, a Muslim gentleman I met from Iran. And I don't know where, I was looking for the source of this, but he was saying, there's a folk story about how, one very advanced person is telling another, so many people are in hellish circumstances and we just can't see it. We're looking for fire and flames and things like that, but a lot of the burning that's going on is burning from the inside. People are burning from the inside. They're struggling and they're suffering, even under the most, outwardly beautiful circumstances. So many people are really, really suffering in this material world. So what we see in Bali Maharaj is that he not only, he doesn't only begrudgingly give, everything to Lord Vamanadev. It's not like he's just, we find that he's outwardly kind of backed into a corner, but he doesn't say, all right, fine, you can take this. He offers with love. He offers his whole self with love. And we see that one who accepts the circumstances, this is an important verse, one who patiently suffers the results of their karma. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, we hear, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So this is a very encouraging verse to focus on. And of course, it should be said that Bali Maharaj is not an ordinary person. Of course, he's one of the 12 Mahajans, Maha, great, Jan's person. So he's one of the 12 great personalities who are cited. But we have this wonderful example that he's not resentful. He's not resentful of the circumstances. He lovingly, patiently accepts. And even here, as Lord Vamanadev is telling him he has to spend time in hellish planets, he's accepting that. And of course, Krishna is directly involved, like Srila Prabhupada said, that when Krishna is sending us into a hellish circumstance, it's really not the same thing because we're under Krishna's care. And we see that not only Bali Maharaj, a great personality like Bali Maharaj, but also this can be even the case for us. that, those who are on the spiritual path may have some karmic reactions that are still coming out. Sometimes karmic reactions are there in seed form, and they have to fructify, and they have to come into being. We hear a nice example of, like a ceiling fan. When you turn off a ceiling fan, it continues to spin a little bit, even though the power has gone out of the motor. It's no longer being driven in the same way, our karmic reactions, but there's this continuation, just inevitably, of, a little bit of energy still there. So we may have karmic reactions to endure, but it's also to be understood that once someone is sincerely pursuing love of God and chanting and associating with devotees, Krishna is directly involved with our circumstances. Krishna has a direct hand, and things are not happening just according to the law of karma, but that Krishna is involved, and of course, according to our level of surrender. Krishna says that those who surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So he reciprocates according to our level of surrender, but he's there, and he can change or eliminate our karma in an instant if he so desires. And also the spiritual master plays a very significant role in this. We often hear that the time of initiation, the spiritual master takes on the karma of the disciple. And this is a complicated teaching, and it can be very daunting for so many. I've talked to so many wonderful, sincere devotees who talked about how at the time of initiation, they were afraid. They felt themselves to be so sinful and so fallen that they didn't want to put that on their spiritual master. But of course, we understand that spiritual master is also protected by his spiritual master and by his, and so on and so forth. And it goes up the chain of the Guru Parampara. Ultimately, Krishna is absorbing whatever karmic handoff may be there. So ultimately, if Krishna is directly involved, we are really in the best hands. And this is really important to remember and to feel, but so much faith is involved there. It's easy to see that Krishna is involved when good things are happening to us. Then we can feel really great. Wow, Krishna's making such beautiful arrangements in my life. I'm so grateful. And, you can feel that assurance that Krishna is acting in our life. But what about the things that are seemingly bad? What about the things that are really difficult and painful in our life? Once we've taken to the spiritual path, we can still go through so many difficulties. Often difficulties may increase according to, our particular circumstances, where there's some purification that may well come, through Krishna's mercy, but it takes the form of trials. So, there's a role of faith, and also insisting upon looking for realizations and lessons. My dear friend Hari Prasad Prabhu, he told me the other day, he gives me a lot of encouragement and support in spiritual life, and he said quite often Krishna deals in lessons. So Krishna, is sometimes it's, how do we know that Krishna is involved in our circumstances, and how can we take our difficulties as Krishna's arrangement? Well, if we insist upon looking for realizations and seeing the teaching in the moment, and doing that in consultation with senior devotees and with Shastra, and trying to understand what's happening, then we can see Krishna's hand in our circumstances. And if transformation and growth are possible and can come out of it, then nothing is in vain. And Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he said this. He said something along these lines also, that whatever experience we have, we need to insist upon it being something that helps us to grow and to transform in our spiritual life. And even something that could come and go in a day, even a positive thing, like if we have a wonderful festival with the devotees, or if we have a great kirtan, how can this be something that's continuing to transform us? How can we not be the same after that experience? How can we continue to grow? So, quite often we're in need of some sobering experiences and some inspiring experiences, things that attract us to Krishna, but things that also sober us about this material world. It's a dual process. And so then you have simple, so in addition to we talked about people who under hellish, who are having a hellish experience under opulent circumstances. But then we also have so many beautiful examples of simple sadhus who are atmaram, satisfied from within, though they may be penniless, though they may be lacking so many material trappings, they're satisfied from within. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport here that, we just aspire to live with Krishna under whatever circumstance. And Srila Prabhupada explains that wherever there's the holy name, wherever there's the deity, so many different ways that this is cited. Wherever Tulsi may be, this is Vrindavan. This is Krishna's abode. And without a doubt, the temple is a Vrindavan atmosphere. And we can feel Krishna's presence there. And furthermore, we're encouraged, progressively, gradually, to go further than that. So, it's explained that the Kanishta Adhikari, one who's in the beginning stages of devotional life, may feel that Krishna is only present in the temple, may go to see the deity and feel that this is the only time when Krishna is present. But of course, we see that advanced devotees, they feel Krishna's presence everywhere. They're seeing Krishna everywhere, seeing everyone and everything in relationship to Krishna, like in Sri Ishopanishad, mantra 6, one who sees everything in relationship to Krishna and sees Krishna within every being. So it's certainly a wonderful thing to focus on the deity in the temple, and this is Krishna's mercy to manifest in this way as Archa Vigraha, and we can fix our mind and pray to the deity form of Krishna. But also in time, our vision will expand that we're also seeing Krishna everywhere under whatever circumstance. So Srila Prabhupada, says in the purport that if Krishna sends us to hell, we're directly under his care. So that in that sense, we see that Bali Maharaj is not afraid because he's a great personality. He's accepting the circumstances. And we see beautiful examples of this where those who are very much living with Krishna, they're not afraid to go into hellish circumstances as long as they can serve, as long as they can chant, as long as the holy name is with them, as long as Krishna is with them. So Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter in 1968 to a disciple named Devananda, and he shared a personal prayer of his, which is very powerful and kind of encapsulates this mood also. He says, "Simply our prayer should be, my dear Krishna, please remind me to always chant your holy name. Please do not put me into forgetfulness. You are sitting within me as super soul, so you can put me into forgetfulness or into remembering you. So please do not put me into forgetfulness. Please always remind me to chant. Even you send me into the hell, it doesn't matter. Just so long as I can always chant Hare Krishna." So this is just so beautiful. We fear change and we fear what our life may pan out to be. Certainly I do, and sometimes we forget though that under whatever circumstance, we still have the holy name. We can still chant. It's like, what a relief to think, oh yeah, even if I go into a different circumstance, even if I end up in a different predicament, God willing, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of the spiritual master, we can still chant, we can still worship, we can still connect with devotees. So this is really the foundation of our life, whatever the external circumstance may be. And just on this meditation of, being sent to hell, sent into a hellish circumstance, but still remaining spiritually fortified. there's a very beautiful story of the gopis, that Krishna has a headache. We hear this story of Krishna having a headache, and he just wants, as a cure for the headache, he says, I want the dust from the lotus feet of my devotees. So first it's Narada Muni. Narada Muni says, no, I can't do this. I can't proceed with that. I'll surely go to hell. And ultimately what happens, of course, is a very, very, elevated mood. But finally, this request goes to the gopis, and the gopis say, oh, of course, Krishna has a headache. Of course, we'll provide that. We'll provide the dust, because it will make Krishna happy. We want to see him relieved. And even if that means, so much difficulty or so much reaction for us. So, to accept Krishna's arrangements, this is a key aspect of faith. And, the question, I guess, may be, how do we know? How do we know when Krishna is making arrangements in our lives? Because of course, our free will is also there. So this is a really challenging question. I grapple with this. How can we really recognize? I would also just love to hear also, Adi Purusha Prabhu, maybe if you can keep this for our discussion, I would really love to hear your thoughts about this. How can we know when it's Krishna's arrangement in our life, And yeah, our own free will is also there. So prayer is important, praying. And also Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, he recently said, you have to embrace the circumstances of your life. You have to embrace the circumstances, because even if you don't embrace the circumstances, they'll still embrace you. So this is very significant that, there are just inevitable things that are happening in our lives. We have to embrace them, and we have to try to see them as Krishna's arrangement. And so, whether in hellish circumstances or in the heavenly planets, the devotee is ultimately focused on the ultimate goal. And this can be, those who are really suffering materially, or even someone like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, wonderful devotee and associate of Lord Chaitanya, who had very, very opulent circumstances and was criticized for that initially. But eventually he showed in his own beautiful way that he was just accepting whatever circumstances Krishna provided, and focusing on really the most important goal of, his spiritual life and of his love of God. So, yeah, we see that whatever circumstance may be there, we try to accept. And as Srila Prabhupada says here, in going back to the purport, devotee always lives with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, engaging in his service, and therefore he is always transcendental to hellish or heavenly residences. And of course, Bali Maharaj says, but Bali Maharaj recognizes that whatever Krishna is, quote unquote, taking from him in the form of Lord Vamanadev, ultimately none of it belongs to him at all. And of course, this is the case with us, that whatever we have is on loan. It's on loan to us from Krishna. Certainly whatever gifts we've been given is coming from Krishna, and they belong to Krishna. So that's why Srila Prabhupada always encouraged us, our spiritual masters encourage us to dovetail, to offer our gifts in a meaningful way on the spiritual path, because this belongs to Krishna. It's coming to Krishna. It's like when a child receives money from the parents. We don't have any of our own money when we're little kids, but the parent may give some money, and then we use that money to buy a birthday gift or something for the parents. Of course, it's just a transfer of the same money that came from the parents, but we added our love. We added the ingredient of our love. So whatever we do, we know everything belongs to Krishna. As stated in Ishopanishad, everything belongs to Krishna. We just have our set quota, and we try to offer that quota. So in the case of Bali Maharaj, Krishna is taking everything from him, and he's offering lovingly. So I think I'll stop there. Thank you all so much, and I just wanted to open up to discussion, and also Adipurusha Prabhu, if you could share about how can we start to recognize that it's Krishna's arrangement versus our own speculation or whatever it may be.
You're taking the right first step in that direction when you put it before the Lord and you say, Krishna, how do you want me to respond to this? Not everyone will put it before Krishna. They'll take shelter of their own intelligence or some resource. But when we say with complete detachment, ready to go one way or the other, Lord, what do you want? Now, if we have an attachment, I want this answer. We have an aversion, I don't want that answer. We can't hear what Krishna is saying. The first thing is put it before the Lord. And second of all, be ready to this way or that way. I'm not sure what to do, but we'll do what you like. So that you already have the answer. You want to know how do I know what Krishna wants? How do I know what Krishna wants, right? And the interesting thing, devotees brought up yesterday about this idea of going to hell. It's not just where you go, but what are you going to do there? Prabhupada said, you take a threshing machine. If it goes to heaven, it will thresh wheat. If it goes to hell, it will thresh wheat. So similarly, a devotee, wherever he goes, Narayana Parasave Nakatenshitana Bibhiti Swarga Prabhagana, the devotee doesn't care if he goes to heaven or hell. He's concentrating on whether or not he's serving Krishna there. He's satisfied to carry out that devotional service, whatever the external circumstances are. And this verse is about, it mentions the word beggar again. If you don't give a beggar what you promised to give him, and in most cases, the connotation of the idea of a beggar is some, hopelessly dysfunctional person who's, destitute and, fallen and ignorant and intoxicated and it just, can you give me $1 or can you give me so that there are beggars in that category. But in the Vedic culture, the rabbinical class, those who are Brahmin initiated, they have the duty to study the Veda and to teach the Veda. They have the duty to engage in worship and invite other people into that discipline and that experience. But they also have the duty, according to Shastra, the duty of the Brahmin is to interact, interface, go out, approach the other people like a beggar, mendicant. It's very honorable to have that service. And they don't do it to try to get something from anybody, but to give someone a chance. And we've had this service decades and decades all over the country and other places in the world. We spent 6 years collecting donations to obtain the Bhakti Center building. And personally, I kind of kept track, 350,000 people we were asked. I approached personally one at a time and said, we're going to be distributing Krishna's Prasadam and we're asking you to give a donation. And, here they are working so hard to put money in their pocket and you're asking them, put their hand in the pocket, take the money out and just give it to you. And in that interaction, they ask questions. Why do you think we want me to give? You want you? And what is it? And we want them to ask questions. And then we help them with a paradigm shift. We say, this is for your benefit. We're here because we care about you. This will come back to you in a wonderful way beyond your dreams. We're encouraging you to, besides being absorbed in the idea of acquiring things and buying things and accumulating more and more and more. We're actually asking you, out of the goodness of your heart, to make a little sacrifice and give a donation. And you can see the mind grappling with that, and then, oh, okay, because you care about us. You're not trying to exploit us, manipulate us, fast talk us, scam us. That they look at you and they evaluate. Does this person believe what he's doing? Is he sincere? Does he really care about me, or is he just trying to get my money? It's such a powerful exchange. So we're reminded by this verse that the Brahmins are mendicants, that they are donation seekers. Of course, Radhanath Swami, you see, he won't even get in a car unless there's some prasadam, because when you stop at the streetlight, someone will come and say, can you give? So we're also meant to give donations, but we don't want to forget that our service of asking for a donation will help us become purified, will benefit the society, and will help provide facility to push on Krishna consciousness. We ask anyone to share their experience of when's the last time you asked someone for a donation. And just yesterday, somebody was asking Jayadvaita Maharaj, well, what can I do? I'm at home. And he said, well, a lot of people are doing business at home. You can pray, and also from home, you can give a donation to support Krishna's prasad distribution for the homeless. We're spending $10,000 every month to do this. We're gathering and encouraging, including people in that. And we're doing the actual boots on the ground work of cooking and going out and giving. And people come. We have today coming 4, 5, 6 people coming, and they assist in the giving. And you see their eyes open, because you don't always have an opportunity to say, this is for you, and 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 this is for you. And they become like, intoxicated with that joyful, loving. Krishna's love is flowing through them and lighting them up. It's really wonderful to see. I'm talking too long. I'm sorry. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Adi Purusha Prabhu. Thank you for the chance to hear from you about this. And yeah, it's really valuable to
When's the last time somebody asked you for a donation?
When's the last time someone asked me for a donation?
Yeah.
Probably pretty recently.
Okay, good. Very good. So this is like breathing. Breathe in. Breathe out. It's a good habit, like breathing. You want to keep doing it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And keep giving other people the opportunity with the right consciousness that, we love you, we care about you. We're encouraging you to do this because it's normal. Prabhupada said, I'm just an insignificant beggar. Yeah. That connotation about beggar. Sometimes I think, I'm not a beggar. I'm a hard worker, and no, we're not begging for the sake of getting, but for the sake of encouraging people to do something beneficial for themselves. All glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you so much. Sometimes it's so much easier on our ego, and of course, giving is a very beautiful thing, but sometimes it can be very hard for our ego to receive, right? To receive in a proper spirit. So yeah, it's really important. And I see here Jai Jagannath Prabhu. He provided that verse. Thank you so much, Jai Jagannath Prabhu. Yeah, that's the verse. Yeah, who doesn't care for any residence? Yeah, and Jamuna Jai said, where can we find that letter? Here, I'll send the link right now.
What about Gail? She always has some wonderful, sparkling questions.
Yeah, I would love to hear from Gail, of course.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Put me on the spot. I don't have anything sparkling, but when you were asking how can we know how to respond, or that if Krishna is guiding us or something, I was just remembering something that I've heard Dhanadhar Maharaj say, that when you're in a difficult situation, you respond to it dharmically under the guidance of sadhus, remembering that this situation has come upon you by Krishna's mercy. So you have to first remember that this is a merciful thing, regardless of the fact that it's a challenging thing. It's coming to you due to Krishna's love for you. But then you respond to it in a dharmic way, but under the guidance of sadhus. And if you do like that, then you will reap a fruit of realization from doing so, and you will come closer to Krishna as a result. So he always says this in connection to Bhishma's dying on the bed of arrows, and in connection to the conversation that Bhishma had with Yudhisthira, because Yudhisthira was feeling so despondent, and Bhishma was empathizing with him, recognizing the inconceivable amount of suffering that the Pandavas had undergone. So Bhishma was just encouraging him in this way, that you respond in these ways and you will reap the realization that will bring you closer to Krishna. Those are the thoughts that were going through my mind when you were asking this question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Gail.